For those who are just now coming in, this is not the official start of the class. This is simply a review / a pickup from last week's Hebrew lesson. Okay? So we left off, as I mentioned, with plural nouns. We finished singular noun suffixes. Now we're going to move into plural noun suffixes. Okay? So the example of our root word example is coming by way of the Hebrew word dabar. Okay, now the Hebrew word dabar can be translated as a word, a thing, or a matter. Okay? But we're going to deal with the translation word. Okay? So our first singular suffix example is ya. Okay? So this is a suffix you're going to see quite a bit if you haven't picked up on it already. In Hebrew, you're going to see this suffix being used for Hebrew constructs. You're going to see this suffix being used for, let's say, singular nouns, plural nouns, many different uses for this same suffix. Okay? So we have ya, which represents first person singular possessive my. Okay? So the example is taking the word dabar and adding the plural suffix or adding the suffix ya to the end, making it my words. Okay? My words. Now some people may ask, well, I thought that yum signified plurality. We go to the top of the document when we're dealing with gender and number suffixes, you see yum denoting masculine plurality. Okay? You see yum denoting masculine plurality. Okay, here we see the suffix yum, which when suffixed to the end of a word changes it from a masculine singular to a masculine plural. Okay? For example, it changes the masculine singular malak to the Hebrew word malakim, which is a masculine plural, meaning kings. Okay? So some people will say, well, I thought that yum signified plurality. Okay? So let's go back to our plural noun example, dabaria. Okay? Now let's say hypothetically we were to drop the suffix ya and add the Hebrew suffix yum, making it opposed to, instead of dabaria, dabariyum. Okay? If we were to make this word dabarium, it would simply mean words. Okay? It would simply mean words. Right? If you remember going back to week number maybe 3, we covered Hebrew Bible chapters. And you notice that the Hebrew word or the Hebrew title for Deuteronomy is what? Dabarium, which means what? Words. Okay? So dabarium means words. What we want to try to express is my words. Okay? Not just words, but my words, because we're dealing with a pronominal suffix, a suffix which denotes a pronoun. Okay, so we want to say my words. So my words is dabaria. Okay, we have an example from Numbers 12 and 6 where it says, "Hear now my words, Shemayawa na dabaria." Shemayawa na dabaria. Okay, here we have the word my words, which is or you have the word dabaria, which is translated as my words. Okay? Moving on to our next one. We're going to cover just a few more. We'll take about maybe 10 minutes of Q&A. All right? 5 more minutes of this and 10 more minutes of Q&A, or 10 minutes of Q&A. Okay? So next we have the suffix yaka. And I think last week we covered an example of this with the word alahayaka. Now the suffix yaka denotes second person. That's the point of view. And I point that out because when you look up your suffixes and things of that nature, or even, well, yes, when you look up, let's say for your suffixes, your pronominal suffixes, you're going to have the point of view, the P, which is denoted by the letter P. You're going to have your number, right, which denotes either singular or plural. In this case, it's singular. And that's going to be denoted by the letter N. And then you'll have the gender, which is denoted by the letter G. I'll see if I can pull out an example. Okay. We put Hebrew. All right. Let's see here if they have a place where it is expressed. Okay, it's not there. Okay, what I'll do for next week is I'll bring a source. I'll bring a book that actually contains what is called basically just an abbreviation for person, gender, and number. Okay, P and G. So in this case, the person or P is second person point of view. The number is singular, and the gender is both masculine and feminine. So this suffix can be used for both masculine as well as feminine. Okay, and this is of course a possessive pronoun. This means your. Okay, that's what yaka means, your. Okay, so again, we're using the root word dabar. Okay, and what we're doing is we're suffixing this word with the Hebrew suffix yaka, right? And this word dabar yaka means your words, your words. Okay, so our example comes by way of the website we showed you last week. Okay, the name of this website is Pialim. Okay, Pa'al simply being the Hebrew word for verb. Okay, as you can actually see here, it says Pa'al. Okay, that's the Hebrew word for verb. Okay, Pialim, which is the name of the website, means verbs, plural. Okay, so let's look up. We're going to use the keyboard. Okay, and we're going to look up the bar. So we're going to take the la, baya, and ra'ash. See here, where's ra'ash? Okay, or da, ba, and ra. All right. And we're going to see if we can find our suffix example. Let me go back here. All right, it's not here. All right, so let's see. As you can see here, as we showed you last week, they provide all of the verb conjugations, but we're looking for pronouns. We're looking for noun suffixes. These are verbs, but we're looking for pronominal suffixes. I'm not sure if they have the pronominals here. Okay, let's go back and see. go back and see if they provide the pronominal. If not, let's go back to the document for the sake of time. All right, so it doesn't look like they provide the pronominal suffix form. Okay, they have the one we showed you earlier. Let me zoom in on this. The Barya. This is a construct form. Okay, words of. All right, so you have the Barya, my words, but then you also have the Barya, which denotes a construct, a Hebrew construct, which we'll cover later in the academy. Okay, let's see here. So it doesn't look like they have the pronominal suffixes or the pronoun suffixes. So we'll just go back to the document. Okay, and let's see. We may have one more example before we close out, or not close out. Move on to a few questions and answers. Okay. So that was the last one we covered. The Baryaka, which means words of. Okay. One more example. We have the suffix yawa, which is third person point of view, singular in gender, or singular in number, masculine in gender. And the suffix yawa means his. And the example we have is the bar, suffix with the suffix yawa, which gives us the Hebrew word the bar yawa, which means his words. Okay? You have an example from the book of Genesis, chapter 37, verse 8, which says, and for his words. Wa'il and for, literally, il means upon or up, okay? But it says here, wa'il and for, the bar yawa, his words. All right? So we're going to leave it there. Hopefully you kind of get the understanding of suffixes and how they work. With time and with study and actually application, reading your Torah and your Tanakh and coming across these examples, those are ways that you will build your knowledge of suffixes, okay? Or any part of the Hebrew language for that example, okay? Applying it and using it, those are going to be very important elements of your study, your learning, and your retaining of the Hebrew language, the biblical Hebrew language. All right, so let me see. Is there a website or computer program where I can read the whole Bible with links to each word meaning in Hebrew and Greek? Absolutely, there's quite a few. In fact, any good Bible program in this time is going to provide you with a link to Hebrew and Greek Strong's numbers. Okay, any good Bible program, for example, you have eSword. Okay, I'm not sure if it's on this laptop and I don't have time to download it, but you have eSword. You have the Olive Tree Bible program in which they provide you with, I think you actually have to purchase the KJV with the Strongs, whereas you click on a word and it gives you the Hebrew or Greek Strong's number. You have the Blue Letter Bible, okay, which is actually online, a free program. eSword is also a free program. Olive Bible is free, but you have to purchase a lot of the add-ons and the apps for it. Okay, things that you would basically get for free. With other Bible programs, you have to pay for with the Olive Bible program, but nonetheless, it's still a good program. Okay, you have interlinear Bibles. Okay, like the ISA, the Interlinear Scriptural Analyzer. You pull it up real quick. All right. So here's an example of the interlinear scriptural analyzer. Basically, an interlinear Bible. Okay. And what it does is it provides you a literal translation of the words. Okay, so as you're reading the English is not going to, it's not necessarily going to make sense to the English reader, because this part here is not, it's not translated. It's not necessarily translated for the sake of the English reader. It's just a literal translation of the words that are provided in Hebrew. Okay, so this is good if you already have a pre-knowledge of certain Hebrew words. Okay, if you have a pre-knowledge of Hebrew, if you have a little bit of study in Hebrew, you can use a tool such as this. Okay, this is good as well because, again, it's going to provide you a translation of each Hebrew word. Okay, and the same thing goes for the Greek. Let's go to the Greek. Here you see the same exact thing. Okay, so they have the word in Greek, they have the transliteration, the Strong's number, and then the translation. Okay, and then on this side they have, let's see here. And then here they have the actual English translation that is for the English reader to make sense of what has been translated. I forget exactly which translation they use here. I don't think it's the KJV, but again, nonetheless, it's still a good Bible tool, okay, for the purpose you just asked. Okay. Someone says when adding a suffix to a Hebrew word, it goes at the end of a word. Considering this, do we still use the ending letter, such as in the case of Nawan or Pa, along with the suffix, or do we need not to change the ending letter in those instances? Well, in those instances where a letter such as, I'm going to go back to the document to show you an example, when those letters are being used at the end of a word, okay, even within a suffix, even if those ending letters are found within a suffix, they take on their ending form. And I'm going to show you an example. It is a very good question. Okay. All right. You see here, with the suffix yaka, you see that ka takes on the ending form. Okay, because it's the last letter. Okay, it's the last letter, and therefore it takes on its ending form. Now, if ka was in this position, this is the letter yod. Now, if ka was in this position, let's say hypothetically they were switched around in which yod was at the end and ka was the second to the last letter. If ka is the second to the last letter, then it's going to take on its regular form, the same form that you'll find at the beginning or middle of a word. But because this letter is the last letter of the full word, then it takes on its ending form. Okay? So that's an example of a suffix with the ending form. Let's see what else we have. Let's see if we have some more examples. I think we have maybe at least one more example here. One moment. We see here with the suffix yum, that the letter ma, because it's the last letter of the word, it's taking on its ending form. Now let's say hypothetically that this was switched around, in which ya was the last letter and ma was the second to last letter. In that case, ma would take on its regular form, which is found at the beginning or middle of a Hebrew word. Okay? Let's see if we have one more example. Okay, there's examples all throughout the document. Okay, but I just want to highlight that because that is a very good question. Okay. Okay, so now here we have an example where we have the letter ka in its regular form, the form that's found at the beginning or middle of a Hebrew word. Okay, and that's just to show you that this is the suffix. Um, this is the letter suffix. But as you can see in our example, we made sure that we use the ending form. Okay, and this is a beautiful example because we see the ka in its second to last, in the position of the second to last letter, where it's in its regular form. And then we see the form of ka, this is the suffix, highlighted in yellow. We see the form of ka in its ending form. Okay? So yes, to answer your question, a ending suffix, the letters such as ka, ma, za, pa, na, so on and so forth, when they are used as suffixes at the end of a word. Now, of course, tza is not used as a suffix, but to the letters to which it applies. Pa is not used as a suffix, so it's only to the letters to which it applies, such as ka, na, ma. Those are the three letters that have the two forms of writing it, or the ending forms that are used in suffixes. In those cases, those are going to take on the ending form. Okay, those suffixes will take on their ending form. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. All right. So based on the time, we have to start our lessons, but we will try to take some time afterwards to answer questions if we have time. All right. All right. First and foremost, we want to give all praise and honor to the Most High, Ahaya, Bahashem Yeshai Wabawak, for allowing us to come before you for another week of the Hebrew and Bible Academy. One thing before we start, I want to ask for those who have been receiving the videos for the last few weeks. If you've noticed, we've been sending out extra content or extra videos for the Hebrew to help kind of give you more insight or more understanding, which hopefully is helping you better understand some of the concepts that we've been teaching for the past 2 weeks. So I want to ask for those who have watched those videos and have received those videos, have those videos been helpful? Okay? And if not, what do you think can be done with those videos to make them helpful? Okay, and I want to understand, because I want to make sure that by the time you finish this academy, that you have a grasp at least on a lot of the concepts that we've been teaching. Okay, so for those who have been able to watch those videos, have they been helpful? And if not, what can be done to make them helpful? Okay, someone says they have not seen those videos. All right. All right, so for those who have watched them, those who have seen them, they have been helpful. Okay, wonderful. Okay, now those videos, if they were sent out pretty much to everyone. So if some people got them or received them, then everyone should have received them. Go back to those emails and check. Okay. Okay, someone says they're not. The videos are helpful. They're not able to take the test that fast. That's okay. Okay. So if some received them, then they were sent to everyone. Basically, for the past few weeks, I've been making sure that we have extra content for the Hebrew in order to help build build some knowledge. I know a lot of people request for us to provide extra lessons throughout the week to help build upon some of the information that we teach on Sunday. So I thought that, at least for the time being, until we were able to build and work on some other ideas that we're working on behind the scenes, I thought that we would add extra videos or extra clips to help you get a better understanding of what we've been teaching. Okay? The videos have basically been about some of the lessons, pretty much the prefixes, the root words. Okay, going into those, more insight or more information on those particular lessons. We will be doing more of those. I'll do one for suffixes as well. I also want to do one showing you when both prefixes and suffixes are added to a word. Okay? Someone says the videos are added bonuses, also the tests. Absolutely, they are added bonuses. Okay, so I just wanted to get some feedback to see if that information has been helpful. So I know going forward, I'll try to do more of those to make sure that you are building your knowledge. Okay, because again, I want to make sure that you guys, when you leave this academy, you at least are able to grasp the information so that you can, once you're able to grasp it for yourself and retain it for yourself, you'll be able to open up the Torah and the Tanakh and work your way around. Just, initially, you're not going to be able to necessarily become a Hebrew scholar after one or after the process, but nonetheless, you'll be able to slowly but surely build your Hebrew knowledge. Okay? All right, so with that, let's get started with week number 7, in which we are dealing with Hebrew pronouns. Let's go back to our screen. The videos are sent. They're sent in the email that contains your other videos. So the same way you receive your video links for your videos, let's say for week number 5, when you receive those video links to go back and watch the video, that's when you should have received the extra videos. Okay? And yes, they are sent by email. All right, so again, we're dealing with Hebrew pronouns. As you can see, pronouns are words such as I, you, he, she, it, that, so on, or not necessarily that, but we've touched on this just a little bit in last week's lesson when we dealt with pronominal suffixes. Pronominal meaning pronoun. Okay, so we're going to cover the pronouns in Hebrew. After this, we're going to do this within maybe 10-15 minutes. And then afterwards, we are going to try to find some biblical examples. Okay? So we have our first pronoun, which is the Hebrew word anya. Anya, which means I. Now, this pronoun can also be translated as I am. A lot of people have the question when it comes to, and this is usually related to the Most High's name, questions surrounding the Most High's name. Okay? Usually people ask the question, well, if ahaya means I am, then when you read in the Bible where it says, for example, I am Jeremiah, or I'm a prophet, what is the Hebrew word that's being used for I am in those instances? That's usually a question that people have. Does it say, for example, is it saying ahaya, Jeremiah? Is it saying ahaya, a prophet? And the answer is no. Throughout the Bible, the primary word for I or I am is this pronoun. Okay? Another thing is that you'll hear people say that, well, ahaya is not the name of God. It just means I am. It's all throughout the Bible. It just simply means I am. Right? When it's, for example, going back to the example I just used, they'll try to equate it to the regular form of I am, where it says I'm a prophet, okay, or I am, let's just say hypothetically, I'm of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. They'll try to put it in that category and say that ahaya it just means I am, and that's how it's used throughout the Bible in those different instances. And that shows that a lot of people, okay, a lot of Israelites especially, are not really acquainted with the Hebrew Bible. Okay? I'm going to say that again. A lot of Hebrew Israelites are not necessarily acquainted with the Hebrew Bible, okay, or the Hebrew language in general. They may have a very basic knowledge, a very topical knowledge, but there's a lot of knowledge that lacks, especially when you hear statements like that being made. Again, the primary way you're going to see I or I am translated throughout the Bible is anya. Okay? There's another form, okay, which is pronounced anakai. Some may pronounce it anakia, okay, or anakai. All right? That's another way, that's another form of anya that you'll find throughout the Bible being used to refer to, or being used in the sense of just the simple usage of I am. Let's see if we can find an example. Okay? So this is the Most High speaking in the book of Genesis, chapter 15, verse 1. Okay, Genesis 15 and 1, where it says, after these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I am thy shield. And usually when it says I am, you'll see that the am is italicized because the am is implied. Okay? The am is implied. Okay? Now some people look at this and say, well, they added words into the language. See, it's italicized. They added that in there. Well, yes, they added it in there, but it's based upon not only the usage of this word throughout the Bible, this Hebrew word anya throughout the Bible. All throughout the Bible, I'm going to show you in Hebrew, the Hebrew word there. Okay? Let's see if we can find the Hebrew word. And as I mentioned, okay, you see this is the other form I was speaking of anya, okay? Anakai, okay? Or as they pronounce it, according to the vowel points, anoki, all right? Some may pronounce it anakia, all right? But we pronounce it anokai, which means I, okay? All throughout the Bible, this word is translated as I or I am, right? And it's not like they just instill or they just throw words in there. When you see the italicized word, yes, those words are added, they are implied for the English reader to understand what they are reading. In many cases, if those italicized words are not added, then the English reader would have a hard time understanding what is being said. Okay? The English reader will have a lot of problems in many cases. In some cases, the italicized word, if you were to take it away, you probably would still get the sense. But in some cases, if you took away the italicized word, there's cases in the Bible where you'll have a row of 3 words that are italicized, meaning they are implied or they're inserted into the text for the English reader to understand. If you were to take that whole thing away, you will have a hard time understanding what that scripture is trying to say, right? And a lot of times those italicized words that are added, they are added for the sake, or they're added not just based on what came to the person's mind at the time. What they do is they do cross-referencing. They'll go to another use of that same word either in the Bible, for example, in either the Hebrew or Greek. They'll cross-reference between the Bible showing for example, let's show this Hebrew word being used in another place in the Bible and how it was translated according to the context, so on and so forth. So they'll use that. They'll use extra biblical works, okay, historical works. For the Hebrew, they'll use Targums, they'll use the Talmud, they'll use any form of Hebrew literature that uses, just hypothetically, that uses any particular word to show the flexibility of how that word has been translated throughout different texts in order to come to the knowledge of how that word can be translated. Okay? And that gives way also to the knowledge of what words are added when it's italicized. There's a science to it. Same thing in Greek. You see words implied in Greek that are italicized. It's not like they just added those words because they just, that's what they felt like doing at the time. Or those are the words that came to mind at the time. There's a science to it. They'll look at a Greek word. They'll see how it's used throughout the Bible. They'll see how it's used throughout different Greek texts. They'll look into Greek records such as Homer. They'll look into Plato just to see how that word is used and translated in different records in order to give knowledge and understanding of how that word can be, or how flexible that word is when it comes to translating it. Okay? All right, so that's just a little tidbit when you see those italicized words in the Bible, but that's another lesson for another day. Again, you see this word here, anakia, or anakai, which means I, but it's translated as I am. Okay, it's translated as I am. Let me see if they have it here. They don't have it here, but we'll see it. We'll get one more example before we move forward. So our other pronouns, let's type in I am again. Okay, we see it again in Genesis 15:7. Let's go to another scripture. This is Genesis 22:1. It says, "And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham, and he said," this is Abraham speaking, "Behold, here I am." Now, just an example of what I was stating earlier, where some Israelites, they'll say, well, Ahaya just means I am. Anywhere you see I am in the Bible, it's Ahaya. We're showing you that that is false, and that those who make those statements really don't have a knowledge of Hebrew, biblical Hebrew. Okay, we're going to show you that this word is not Ahaya. Okay, this word I am, when we go to the translation, okay, and this is why I want you all to be able to grasp the understanding of the language, because people will try to pull one over on you. Okay? Now here, it actually does not contain that word. It actually contains the word. It contains the word Hananya, which means behold me. Okay, so where it says, behold, here I am, in Genesis 22:1, it's the Hebrew word Hanan, which goes back to the Hebrew word Hana, which means to behold. And then you have the suffix na, which means my. So Hananya actually means behold me. So let me find another example that actually contains I am or one of those words, anya or anakai. Okay, let's see here. Let's go to Genesis 23 and 4. Let's see if that's an example. Then we'll move on to the next pronoun. And we'll do the same thing for the next pronoun. We'll try to find some biblical examples. Okay? Let's see. So again, we have this is coming from Genesis 23 and 4, where Abraham says, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. Okay? So where it says here, I am a stranger, let's see if it says ahaya, for those who would like to say that. Okay? That everywhere it says I am is translated as ahaya. Again, you see the pronoun anakai, which is really a variant of anya. Okay? These are basically the same word. One is a variant of the other. Okay? But there you see the pronoun anakai, which is I am. Okay? I or I am. Okay? Moving forward. Next we have atha, which means you. Okay? Now going back to anya or I, this is first person point of view, both masculine and feminine. Okay, both masculine and feminine, meaning anya or anakai can be used for both masculine and feminine. All right, next we have atha, which means you. This is second person point of view, masculine, singular. Okay, so this is masculine. Okay, atha. So let's see if we can find a biblical example. Okay. Okay, here's an example of the plural form, okay, which we're going to cover later. Okay, this is an example of the plural form coming from Genesis 9, verse 7, where it says, and you be ye fruitful and multiply and bring you forth abundantly in the earth and multiply therein. Okay, now the word there where it says, and you, okay, because he's speaking to, let's see here, he's speaking to the sons of Noah, all right, so he's speaking to more than one person at a time. So therefore, the plural form is used. Okay, the plural form is used. It says here, wa atham. Okay, this is the masculine plural form of atha. Atha is masculine singular. Atham is masculine plural. Okay, so let's see if we can find a masculine singular example. Okay, masculine singular example. All right, let's type in you again. Again, I believe this will be the plural form. Let me just check to make sure. All right, blue letter is acting up again where it doesn't want to provide the translation. So let's see if we can find another tool, another resource, because the blue letter is acting up. 1 second. Let's see if it'll give us an example here. All right, so it's being jumpy. All right, so let's go to the same verse. Let's go to the book of Genesis. What verse was that? That was Genesis 17 and 10. Okay, Genesis chapter 17, verse 10. And let's see the form of you that is used. Okay, Now in this case, it uses the suffix form of you. Okay, we actually covered this last week. All right. One moment, the technology is doing its own thing. We're going to try to work it out as best as we can, but the technology is doing its own thing. All right. All right, so let's see if we can find something else here. Okay, but in this case, in Genesis 17 and 10, it actually uses the suffix form of you, which is com, which you have in your suffixes document. Okay, let me scroll up here to show you where it can be found in your suffix document. All right, let me see here. All right, so this is the form of you, okay, that it uses in Genesis 17 and 10, where it says between you. Okay, let's go back to it. Let's see if it'll come up this time. Okay, let's see if it will come up this time. Again, going to Genesis chapter 17, verse number 10. Okay, well, as you can see, as we enlarge it, it kind of blinks out. So let's go back to the blue letter. Let's see if this is going to work here. All right, so again, they're not showing the interlinear. So let me think, is there another program that we can use on the fly? Let me think here. Let me see. All right, this should work here. Let's go to Genesis 17, verse 10. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. So it says here, this is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you. Okay, so for you, let me see here. It says here, Bayanya, which is between me, Wa Bayanyakam, which means and between you. Okay, so the word for you is kam. Okay, so it uses the suffix form for you in this particular chapter. So let's see if we can find a fa. In fact, let me make it a little quicker here for the sake of time. All right, so here we have a tha, which can be translated as thou and thee, ye and you. Okay, so let's go to the Jacinius. Let's see if it gives us a scriptural example. Let's see if we can get an example from Jacinius. If not, we'll just move forward. But you can see that it does show us in two-letter lookup that a tha is thou, thee, ye, and you. Okay? It shows you the feminine form, which we're going to cover. It shows you the Aramaic form. And it also shows you the masculine form, which we showed you a scriptural example earlier. Okay? So let's go, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, so we have a tha, which is our personal pronoun, second person, masculine, thou. Okay, so let's go to Genesis 3 and 11. Genesis 3 and 11, where we will receive an example. It says here, Genesis 3 and 11, and he said, who told thee that thou was naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? Now let's see if we can find the word for you. Okay. So it says here, kaya, that ayaram, naked, atha, which translates as you or thou art, okay, or you are, all right, who told thee that you are naked or that you were naked, okay. So that's our example of atha. Let me enlarge it here. Okay, here you see the word for naked, ayaram, and then you see the word atha, which means you. It can also be translated as thou, thee, you art, so on and so forth. Thou art. Okay, those are the different ways that word can be translated. All right, so now moving on to our next example. Okay, so we showed you the masculine form of atha. Now we're moving on to the feminine form, which is ath. Okay, also means you. Second person, point of view, feminine and gender, singular in number. Obviously, the difference is the fact that atha is masculine and ath is feminine. So let's go back to our Jacinius lexicon and see if they give us a feminine example. It looks like we can find one here. We see ath being used in 1 Samuel 24:19. Let's go there and see what they give us. All right, 1 Samuel 24 and 19. All right, let's go up. See here. First Samuel 24, verse number 19. Okay. Okay, let's see here. We're at 24 and 19. Let's try 24 and 20. Okay. Let's see here. All right, so it says here in 24 verse 20, all right, chapter 24 verse 20, and Araunah looked forth and saw the king and his servants coming on to him, and Araunah went out before him. Now this here, this form of ath is going to be, this is a direct object. Okay, so you have ath, which is, as we showed you earlier, you have the pronoun form of ath, the feminine pronoun, and you also have the direct object. So for example, as we showed, I think briefly we discussed this a few weeks ago, that direct object basically identifies or shows what's on the receiving end of a verb. So here we have our verb, okay, while yara, and he saw, or and he looked, okay. Then you have your direct object, which is standing before the thing that Araunah looked upon. So basically, again, the direct object will come before the thing that is on the receiving end of the action or on the receiving end of the verb. In this case, it says hamalak. Okay, so the king is on the receiving end of the action. What is the action? We see it here with the Hebrew word ra, which means to look. Okay?
Do you want anything from Duncan?
I'm good. I'm good. So, thank you. All right. So that again, that's the direct object form of ath. So Let's go back. Let's see if we can, again, we want to try to find the feminine form of a thaw. Okay, the feminine form of a thaw. So let me move this out the way. Excuse me if I'm moving quickly. I'm trying to cover as much as we can with the time that we have. Okay, so let's see if we can find an example of what we are looking for. Okay. Let's see if they, in fact, I think there's an entry that is severed out solely for the feminine form. So let me see if we can find that one. I think they have one that is severed out. Okay. Okay, I think off has a separate entry. So let's see if we can find it. All right, how do I get to the next page here? Try this here. All right, what we'll probably do if we don't have enough time to show examples for every pronoun that we have is we will do a separate video finishing this up, showing more examples. Okay. So let's see here. We have, let's see if this is off feminine form. Okay, so they have it here, the feminine form. Let me see here. Let me see here. Let me go to the next page. All right, if we can't find one here, we'll move forward. All right, next page. All right, so I don't see a separate entry for that particular form, the feminine form. Not to say it's not in the Descendants lexicon, but just off the cuff, I cannot find that particular example. So we may just move forward. Okay, we may just move forward. We may just move forward. Okay. We try Ezekiel 28 and 14. We'll try that as the last attempt. If we don't see it there, we'll just move forward. Okay, we need the English as well. All right, Ezekiel 28, verse number 14. All right, one second. Okay, so it has a form here. It has off here. Okay, it says off karawal. Okay, which is the Hebrew word for cherub. Okay, off karawal. Okay, so it does have off here. All right, which again, that's the feminine form of. Let's see, going back. That is the feminine form of atha. All right, so now moving forward, all right, for the sake of time, I'm going to speed up a little bit. Again, anything we're not able to cover, we'll cover later in a separate video. All right, so moving forward, I'll just go over the list of pronouns for the time being. And if we have time, we'll go back and we will provide some more biblical examples. All right, so we have ah, which means you, feminine. We have hawa, which means he. Okay, but you notice we have she, it, or that. Some cases it can be translated as she, but the primary translation of hawa will be he. It can also be translated as it as well as that, but the primary translation will be he. You have haya'a, which is she. This can also be translated as it. We have anachnawa, which means we. We have anawa, which also means we. We have a thumb, which means you, masculine plural. A thun, you, masculine feminine. Okay? We have hum, which means them or they, and we have han, which means them or they feminine. So hum is masculine, them or they. Han is feminine, them or they. So that's our list of pronouns again. Anya meaning I, atha meaning you, masculine, af, you feminine, hawa'a, he, haya'a, she, anachnawa, we, anawa, we, a thumb. Now, anachnawa, both of these can be used for both masculine as well as feminine. A thumb, you masculine, a thun, you all feminine or you plural feminine. Hum, them or they masculine. Hun, them or they feminine. Okay? All right, so we're going to go back. Let's see if we can find a few more examples. All right, and then we will answer a few questions. All right, let's go back to our two-letter lookup. And let's type in hawa'a. Okay, and as you can see, as we showed you earlier, hawa'a can be translated as he, self, the same, this, that, as, or are. Okay? Now they pronounce it based on the vowel points. It's pronounced as who. Okay, so we're going to go to the Descendants and see if they give us some biblical examples. Okay, let's go to Genesis 14 and 15. Genesis 14, verse number 15. Okay. Let's zoom in. So it says, Wayah chalak, and he divided Ayahum between them, okay, Layala, night, Hawa, him, I think it's translated as him, okay, or himself. Okay, let me see here. So yes, it's translated as he, okay, he, okay, and it says here, and ibad, servant, ya, of, wa, his, or his servant. Okay? So here it says, hawa'a, he, wa ibad yawa, and his servant, showing you the suffix form of he. All right? As we discussed last week. Okay? He and his servant. Hawa'a wa ibad yawa. All right, moving on. Let's see if we can get for she. Okay. Now let's just go to for this one. We'll just go into the Bible, type she, and see what we get. Okay, we'll just type up she and see what we get. Okay, let's try Genesis chapter 2, verse 23. All right, let's see the form of she that is used here. Okay, so here it uses the suffix form of she, okay, or the suffix form, which we showed you earlier. The suffix ha also means her, okay, but when it's suffixed to this verb laquak, okay, laquak means to take. When they add the suffix ha, it's translated as she was taken. Okay, so it's explaining Eve, her creation, Yahkara, he called Asha, woman. Okay, Kaya, for, Ma'ayash, from man, Lakwaka, she was taken. Okay, or she was taken from man. Okay, again, Yahkara, or Yahkara, yes, Yahkara, he called Asha, woman, or he called her woman, for Kaya, she from man, ma ayash, ma meaning from, we showed that in prefixes, ayash meaning man, la kwaka, she was taken. Okay? So it more so uses a suffix to denote she opposed to the pronoun, the independent pronoun, haya'ah. So let's see if we can find another example. Again, if we can't find one immediately, we'll just move on to the next one. Okay, let's try her. Genesis 2:22. Again, it may be a suffix form or an affixed form, either prefix or suffix form. Okay, so yeah, again, here it's a suffix form for her or she. All right, not the pronoun form that we're looking for. Okay, it says here. So this right here signifies her in this particular verse. Okay, here it says wa, which means and. Ya means he. Okay. Ba'a meaning to bring. and then the suffix ha signifying or is translated as her in this particular example. So we'll try one more time to see if we can find the pronoun. If not, we'll move forward. Okay, let's type in she again. All right, let's try Genesis 11 and 30. Or Genesis 11, yes, Genesis 11 and 30. Let's go down to verse 30 and let's see what word is used to translate she. We'll see if it's the pronoun that we're looking for. Okay. All right, and again, it's using it's using a suffix to denote she. Okay. It's using the suffix. It's using the suffix ha to denote she. All right. So again, we'll probably do a extra video, just going and showing some examples of the pronoun versions being used. But I'll move forward and we'll try one more example, and then the last 5 minutes we'll answer a few questions. Okay. So we'll move on to another pronoun. Okay. Let's move on to the pronoun. So you have anach nawa and anawa, which both mean we. The form that you'll usually find in the Bible is anawa, so let's look that up and see what we can find. Let's see here. Okay, so here we see it. We go to the two-letter lookup. We typed in our first two letters, alaf and nawan, or ah and na, and it comes up. You can see here, we. Okay, so we're going to type here. Let's see if they give us a scriptural example. Now it says here that anawa is contracted for anach nawa. So this is a contracted form of anach nawa. But as I mentioned earlier, both of these are pretty much the same word. Both anach nawa and the nawa, they both translate as we. All right. So let's see if Jasinius gives us a scripture we can go to for an example. Okay, so here we see the entry for anawa. Zoom in. Okay, anawa, which means we, and they also have anach nawa. All right, so they have the passage, Jeremiah 42 and 6. Let's go there real quick and see what we find. Jeremiah 42, verse number 6. Okay, this will probably be our last example for the sake of time. All right, Jeremiah 42, verse number 6. It says, whether it be good or whether it be evil, we will hearken to the voice of the Lord our God, to whom we send thee, that it may be well with us when we hearken to the voice of the Lord our God. Now, of course, our people were lying. When Jeremiah went and spoke to the Most High, they came back and said, well, we're not going to listen to the Most High. What you say, we're going to do what we want to do. Right? And now we see an example of a nawa, okay, being used. Okay? All right? So it says here, Allahayanawa, our God, Ashar, which, Anawa, we. Okay? We. And then I believe that's called a colon, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? In the brackets or the colon, you see Anaknawa. Okay? Those are both the same word. Okay? So Allahayanawa, which we showed you an example of this last week, meaning our God. In our suffix lesson, we covered Nawa, which means our. Okay? We have Ashar, which means which. Anawa, we. And then we have Anach Nawa, which also means we. Okay, in brackets. Shalachium, which means we send you. Okay, let me see how it's translated here. All right, so it says, where it says, we send thee, that's that word there, shalachium. Okay, So again, we see an example of our pronoun that we covered today. All right. And again, we'll probably do a separate video in order to highlight and try to find some more of the pronouns that we covered today throughout Scripture. But with that, we are going to conclude with the lesson. And we are going to use the last 5 minutes for Q&A. All right, someone says, where can they order a calendar? You can order a calendar. I'll send you the link. Okay, 1 second. All right, that should be good. All right, so let me give you the link to where you can order a Hebrew calendar. All right, you can order it from historytimes.org. Historytimes.org. You can order a Hebrew calendar. Let me put this in the chat. Yes, Anawa also translates as are, the same for Anaknawa. Okay, they both translate as either we or are. Okay. Someone says, what is the link for the lexicon you were using, or is it in the package? Again, that is, there's two links really. You have two-letter lookup, which allows you to look up. Let me see here. I'll put the name of it in the chat. This allows you to look up any Hebrew word within the Bible. Just type it in 2 letters. It'll start to give you a list of words. And then when you want to, if you want to see how that word is used throughout the Bible, as well as other literature, you click on where it says Gesenius, and it will take you to the Gesenius lexicon. So it's 2 links. Okay. So you have 2-letter lookup, and you have Gesenius lexicon. Someone says, where can you order the Blue Letter Bible? The Blue Letter Bible is a website. It's a free website, so you don't have to order that in particular. Someone says, can you how do you use ham if referring to a people? Good question. We showed you the suffix in Hebrew ham, okay, and that's a suffix, right? And I mentioned that people will probably see that because it's spelled ham, it's pronounced ham, but it's spelled ham. Many people will think maybe that's how you spell the name Ham. Let's look up Ham and let's show you the difference. You're going to find out that in Hebrew, Ham does not start with the H letter, okay, or the letter Ha. Okay, so we're going to go into the Hebrew, look up Ham. Okay. Okay, notice the letter that we're using. This is the letter Ha, but for Ham, it's the letter Cha. Okay? All right, let's move over. Okay, so you can see in Hebrew, it's more so the letter Cha than the letter Ha. Now, of course, in English, it's spelled with an H. Okay, Ham, as you see here, which is translated as hot. Okay, hot as pertaining from the tropical habitat. Okay, so that's Ham, speaking of the patriarch of the Hamites. Okay, the suffix that we covered last week. Okay, I closed out the suffix lesson, but obviously you know the difference now between the suffix and the word Ham. Now let's say hypothetically they were both spelled using the same letters. You would still know to differentiate because Ham is going to be used as a proper noun identifying a specific people. Okay, that's going to stand alone by itself as a noun, whereas the suffix ham will only be found affixed or attached to the end of a Hebrew word. So you're never going to see that suffix standing alone as an independent word. It will always be suffixed or affixed to the end of a word. So hopefully that's clear. All right, one more question here. Let's see here. We'll go into that, Ruth. That's a good question. We'll try to go into that next week as far as pronunciation, syllables, so on and so forth. We'll try to cover that next week. Okay, we'll try to explain that as Sister Nini. We'll try to do that next week as well, showing you how to use the Blue Letter Bible. Okay, that'll probably trickle into how to use the Strong's Concordance as well. I get a lot of questions brothers and sisters ask, how do we use the Strong's Concordance? So we'll probably try to do that next week as well. Or if not, if we don't have time next week, I'll do a separate video on that will be sent to you. Okay. We'll deal with Hebrew names later in the academy, so save questions as regards to names for later in the academy. All right, with that, we are at the top, or we're past the top of the hour, so we have to conclude at this time. All right, so give us a few moments and we'll be back with the news segment. And then afterwards, we'll be back with the biblical/historical segment of the academy, dealing with the breakdown of modern Christianity. So hold tight. We'll be back in a few moments. Shalom.